Okay, so a little bit about my breast cancer journey. Um, when I was 14, I always had cystic breast, and I had several surgeries on my breast, particular the right side. It just formed these cysts, and by the time I was 38, I had like a total of 5 biopsies on the right side breast, and they were all benign, non-cancerous. And when I found this cyst at the age of 38, I kind of was hesitant to rush to, my doctor to see what it was because I've had cystic breast, pretty much as far as back as I can remember. But something told me to, go and have it checked out. And the way I found it, and I always try to educate, ladies out here, it's very important to do breast self exams at home. So when I went to my doctor, they tested the lump that was in the right breast, and I just kind of went on about my business, back to work and everything. And then I got a phone call one day, and they were telling me that I need to come in and see my doctor right away, like make an appointment the next day. And that kind of worried me. I didn't know at the time, I didn't know my family history of breast cancer, that it ran in the family. So, when they were telling me that I need to come in right away and have it checked out, have it checked out by my primary care doctor, I really got worried because they wouldn't give me no information over the phone. So when I went in the next day to have, to see what's going on, I was told that I had what they called, and I'm going to look at my notes so I can pronounce it right. I had what they called ductal carcinoma in situ. What that is cancer cancer cells has been traced in the milk ducts, but it has not yet spread it, among the breast. And so I caught mine very early. Um, and so from there, they gave me options. So my options were to have chemo and radiation or just have a double mastectomy. I was young back then and I was very active, and I just could not phantom the fact that I would be down for, chemo radiation. Like, that just kind of wipes out everything in your life pretty much. So you have to concentrate on that. So I opt to have the double mastectomy, which I don't think that they were too happy about. Um, but I opt to have the double mastectomy. And from there, they had me go through all these, red hoops. I had to jump through all these hoops. Like I had to see counselors, psychiatrists, because they wanted to know that if I was mentally stable, to accept having my breast removed. And they told me that, sometimes women who have their breast removed don't feel as feminine, if you will. But that's not what I was thinking at all at the time. So, I did everything that was required of me so that I could have this double mastectomy because I wanted to get on with my life and be healthy, right? So I went on and had the planned the double mastectomy surgery. I'm sorry. And from there, things started to get like really real. Like, okay, this is really happening. And the process, I think, was more scarier than me hearing the news because I had to get prepared to have the double mastectomy. It's not just the surgery that they just said, okay, we're going to schedule this and we're going to do this. I had to get prepared for it, and they had to prepare my breast for it. So I had to wear these things called, and I know a lot of women who went through this know what I'm talking about. I had to had these things placed in my chest called expanders, and the expanders they expand. Like every 2 weeks, I would go to the doctor, and they would expand them to stretch the skin, and that was so very painful. It was just absolutely painful, and from that point, I started kind of like dwindling down into a little bit of depression, because I thought I was prepared for it. But then when I start, going through the motion of it, it just kind of like, all kind of things were going through my mind. But I never once complained because I chose to have the double mastectomy, versus the other options I had. But so I stayed in pain a lot. My sleeping habits basically were non-existent because I couldn't really sleep on my side, and I always been a stomach sleeper. And the expanders are very hard. They're like very hard lumps in the breast. And because they put the expanders under my muscle, that just made it that more uncomfortable and painful. So I wore my expanders for, I think, about 6 months. And then my chest was prepared for the implants, which were the soft implants. And so when I had the expanders removed, I went back to surgery to have the implants put in. And that was a very painful experience as well. It was a long process. And I just, but I never once complained. I just wanted to get back with my life, get back to my regular life. And, it was a journey going through all that and then following up with a psychiatrist because I had fell into a little deep depression. So I was taking some medication at first for that. But after, I had the soft implants put in, there were saline implants because the military where I got it done in Walter Reed, excuse me, Walter Reed Bethesda Hospital is one of the best breast care centers ever. I mean, they were so good to me. But, once I had them put in, you know, I still had to take my time getting back into my daily routine because I worked out a lot. And so now we're talking about jumping around. But the military, I remember like it was yesterday, the military back then did not have silicone breast implants approved by the FDA. So I had to get the saline implants, and they didn't feel as natural as the regular silicone implants. But that's what I had to do. So I went through that, and the saline implants. They tell you when they put them in the saline implants, over time they evaporate because it's nothing but salt water, right? So they evaporate. So my implants started to. I think I had them in about going on 10 years. So now we're talking about I'm like 48, 49 years old, and my implants had started to evaporate. And when they did, it had a lot of scar tissue around the implant. And when the implant moved, because they're not as full as they were when they were first placed in, the scar tissue would just cause this real bad pain in the breast. So, that was something else that I was going through, outside of having the double mastectomy. But fortunately, when I went back 10 years or so later, silicone implants had been approved by the FDA. So the military were able to, exchange the saline for the silicone implants, which are very much more natural to your natural breast. And so that is what I have now, the silicone implants. And I don't really have any issues with it. I have a lot of scar tissue and scarring because my skin, because I'm African American, we tend to keloid. And so now I'm having issues with, the keloid, the scarring. And I just went back to them yesterday. I was in there yesterday, and it just brings back everything all over again, especially when it's not really much they can do to help me. So that is where I am now in my, with my breast surgery. Okay, how am I pushing past my depression and my journey? I think actually, to be honest with you, the medication that I was given did nothing for my mental being. The medication really kept you in a daze. You were tired a lot. And then other factors that, it caused, such as not having having a low sex drive. That was one of the symptoms of, the antidepressant. And it wasn't just one, it was like several of them they had me on. And so it just really took me to a very darker place. And that darker place was just not good for me because I was having some thoughts of doing things to myself. And I think one day, and then I wasn't able to, go to the gym like I regularly did because I was so tired. It just keeps it. That's what it did for me. It kept me tired where I didn't want to. I just wasn't motivated, and so I just stopped taking them. And when I stopped taking them, my life kind of like opened back up because I refused to be depressed after all that I went through with having my breast surgery. There's just no way I can continue to be depressed about that and moving on with my life because my breast surgery will always be with me. And, I have the scars to prove it, and that's one thing I always say on my social media platforms to other women. I am not my scars, but I am a warrior. My scars are a reminder of how strong and determined I was to overcome, my journey of having my breast removed. I love my breasts. I love them. I have no complaints about them. My life is normal. But to answer your question, I got off that medication. And, for other women out there who are on antidepressants going through breast cancer surgery, I'm not recommending that you do that. But for me, I had to come off of that. And that was the best decision that I made, coming off of it. It's like I can hear the birds chirping again, it was already depressing going through what I was going through, and then taking the medication made it worse for me. So once I came off of that, I got back into the gym. And exercise for me was, that was my medication. When I exercised, it made me feel good. It gave me energy. And then I started going into, because I have a nonprofit as well. Then I started empowering other women who have been locked up, and have done things that they shouldn't have done. I started going into the jails and just teaching, giving them some empowerment, you know, um, to lift their spirits because of all I went through. I didn't explain to them what I went through, but, you know, empowering other women and seeing that they can do it and knowing that I'm helping them, that was my motivation for me. It just kind of totally took away the thoughts of what I had went through with my breast cancer. So that is how I stayed motivated, and I'm still doing that to this day. I haven't done it lately because of the pandemic, but that is one of the reasons why I decided to become a certified empowerment coach to empower other women, to let them know that you can get through this too, you know. And I caught mine early. I understand that, and some other women may not be as fortunate, but you still can fight through this. Do not give up. And when I relay that message to other women and I see how it makes them feel, it's kind of like paying myself back. So for me, that's how I stay motivated. And that is what made me become a certified life coach. And, you know, on my social media platforms, I go back and forth about self-esteem, your self-worth, your self-value, and uh, breast cancer awareness for women. So yeah, the first, my feelings from that conversation when I first found out that I had, you know, breast cancer, I don't think I understood exactly what I was being told. I mean, I knew what breast cancer was. And, you know, as I said earlier, I did not know that it run in the family. I, I wasn't even questioning why me. The first thing I said is, okay, well, what do we need to do? What can I do? You know, let's, what can I do? What are my options? And because I was so determined to not let that hold me back, and not even knowing how it could hold me back, because I was not as educated on breast cancer as I am now. And so, you know, my immediate response was, okay, what are my options? And then they gave me my three options. But they really didn't want me to they didn't want me to do the double mastectomy. They wanted me to do the radiation and chemo and take the um, uh, I forget the name of the medication that they had out back then, because back then it was on a trial basis. So they were testing, you know, breast cancer patients on that medication. And then it came with a slew of side effects. And I just could not phantom, you know, where I was in my life and then just putting everything on hold, you know, and taking care of this. Now, if I had to, then that would be my choice. If I didn't have a choice, like they gave me, then so be it. But I was just really hopeful, you know, and determined to move to the next level. And then through my journey, I began to learn more about what it is that I was going through. And, you know, just like the, what I explained, that I had the ductal carcinoma in situ. What is that? You know, and I sat down and I studied what was going through, what was happening with my body and with, you know, this breast cancer. And, but not until I realized what I had to go through did I sit down and do my research, because I wanted to know what was getting ready to happen with me, with my body. Okay, so yeah, what I have upcoming, well, how I got into it. So my nonprofit absolutely had nothing to do with, you know, what I went through my journey with breast cancer. Growing up as an only child, uh, I always saw my parents fighting and fussing. You know, it was always chaos. And I saw the changes that my mom went through, you know, mentally and physically, because she was being fought. And so it just really, as a child, it just really did something with, you know, my self-esteem issues. Like I really had self-esteem issues. And then I would act out, you know, to get attention. And so I noticed that, you know, women that are being released from jail today are not getting the help that they need on the inside. And when they come out, they're lost. Like they have no clue of, you know, of what to do. They're just interested in finding, a roof under their head, over their head. And that's fine. But mentally, if you're not mentally stable, having a roof over your head and coming back out into the community and finding employment, it's going to be a challenge for you because no one taught you how to look for employment. You don't know what a resume is. You don't know how to write a resume. What are you going to do? And I realized that these repeated stigmas, and the repeated stigmas would cause them to recidivate, meaning if you don't have a good, decent job and your rent is due and you don't have enough money to pay your rent, then in most cases you're going to go and do some criminal acts so you can get your rent paid, and it's just a repeat process. So I wanted to go inside. I created a pilot program called Project A, meaning Project Attitude, and I went inside I volunteered for 1 year, and then I went inside another year with my own pilot program, and I just taught them the importance of having value for yourself, like self-worth, self-respect, because if you don't respect yourself, no one else will. And changing your mindset, right? Because that's where it all begins, changing your mindset. You have to change your mindset. And in some cases, change your friends and your family, you know. And so I went in and I taught that program. It's an 8-week program, so that was 2 months, once a week, and I absolutely enjoyed it. And when I was inside talking to these ladies and seeing, how their self-esteem has just really brought them down, it reminded me a lot of my mom. And so, I just wanted to be able to do something to empower them on the inside, and then help them once they're, post release as well, finding housing, a job, learning how to write a resume, and just, giving them the resources that they need to be productive citizens. You do not have to come out here and work a minimum wage job if you are determined to do better. So I just kept them motivated, and gave them the tools that they can use to, um, you know, advance themselves, if you will. And so my coaching business, and I did that while we were down on COVID because we couldn't no longer go into the jail. Um, so I was like, well, what is this life coach thing? Like, it's hot right now. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, let me do that, because I'm always interested in helping other people, and my niche is women. And so I did that for, I didn't realize that when I signed up for it, it was going to be 6 months. That's like going back to school. But I did the program for 6 months, and then I just finished it up in December. So, I'm still kind of new at it. And I'm just starting to get my business up and running. So I'm still fairly new. That's why I don't have a lot of videos and things. And learning that, you know, the joy that it brings me with helping other women. And so I have a coach as well. And my coach, I told her my story about my breast cancer, and that is something that I never really talked about. Like, I just never really talked about it. I don't know. And she said, Kim, you have to talk about your story. You have to tell people your story. And so I said, okay, all right, I'll do that. I'll try. And because I haven't spoke about my breast cancer journey for so many years, when I did my first video on YouTube, it just really brought back a lot of emotions in me. And I couldn't understand where these feelings were coming from. Like, okay, what is going on? Like, why can't I just talk about this? But, she explained to me that is something that you never dealt with because you never talked about it. And so you have some feelings that need to be put out there to help other women. And that is how you are going to overcome that. And so I just went from there because my coaching niche was basically self-esteem, self-worth, helping women overcome, their struggles with, putting value on their self and their self-worth and things of that nature. And then I started heading towards women who are going through breast cancer surgery and women who have been through it, such as myself, and telling my story, and what I went through and, helping other women. So I'm also in the process now of writing a journal and a planner. So it's called Goals of Determination, Goals and Goals of Determination Journal and Planner. And in this planner, I'm explaining to them what is going on with your body, like what is breast cancer, what are the stages of breast cancer, and it's places in there where you can write down your appointments. I have a calendar and your appointments, your medications, what day you take them, and daily affirmations, things that will keep you empowered, as you're going through this journey, because that is something that I didn't have. So, things of that sort. So I'm in the process of writing that now, and it probably won't be ready till around the spring or summer of next year, and these are all things that my coach, my empowerment coach, recommended, and things that I never thought about to do. So yes, that that is why I decided to, start my nonprofit and then do coaching. And hopefully, the two can intermingle together because, you know, these ladies, they need counseling and then they need coaching. My words of advice for someone going through breast cancer would be stay positive. You have to have a positive mindset. Um, I thought I had a positive mindset when I was going through it, but I didn't understand exactly what I was going through. So I was just ready to hurry up and get it. Let's do this. Let's do this. So I just want to get back to my life, my normal life, and then when it was all said and done, I encountered depression because my mindset was not ready for accepting what my body was getting ready to go through. So I would just, encourage them to just have a positive mindset and learn, what it is that you're getting ready to go through. Stay healthy, whether that may be eating healthy, exercising, whatever you need to do, and just stay strong because the stronger your mindset, the better it's going to be for you to overcome this. And when we fall into depression, that's an illness. You are already dealing with this disease, so you don't need, to deal with this disease and then you're depressed. So, and that can hinder your healing sometimes. And so I would just, suggest to all the women out there who are going through breast cancer to stay strong, stay healthy, by eating the right foods, and you know, just hang on in there. I put on one of my social media posts just the other day, what makes you a badass? What makes you a badass when you're going through this? Just the mere fact that you are going through this and you are strong and you are determined to get past this. That is what makes you a badass. And I said, I am a badass. And so, it's just having the mind frame of those things right there. Read your daily affirmations. I read daily affirmations, one in the morning, one at night. spiritually, whatever works for you. But you have to stay positive, surround yourself by positive people, people who support you, and people who are there for you. Yep.